Jacob turned around to look at the time, and that is when he noticed that there were only a few people left in the restaurant. A little panic set in his heart, knowing that it was way past the closing time of the dorm. He couldn't believe that he got so lost while talking to Kathy. "Sir, can we have our check, please?" He took out his wallet and said, in a hurry. It took about 5 minutes to make the payment, and Jacob and Kathy rushed out of the burger joint. As soon as they stepped out, they realized that the whole street was already empty and that it was fairly dark since a lot of the stores around them had shut their lights off as well. "What now?" Kathy looked a little worried as she clutched her bag tightly in her hands. She had never spent a night outside of her home or the dorm. In fact, this was the first time she had missed the curfew time of the dorm. She was continuously kicking herself mentally for putting herself in this situation. "It's all right. Maybe the resident supervisor will allow us in." Jacob rode her bike with her on the back seat and rode into the residential area as he comforted her. He pedaled as fast as the bike could go with 2 riders. They reached the entrance of the female dorm building number 3 in the South region and found the light in the administrative office of the dorm gate turned off. That meant the supervisor had already gone to sleep. On top of that, all the lights in the dorm building were off as well, which showed that the curfew had begun. Kathy jumped off the bike in a hurry and called towards the window of the administrative office, "Ma'am, ma'am." Nothing happened. Jacob knew that the supervisor of their male dormitory building number 7 always slept late, and he should be able to wake him up even if he went to bed. This meant that he could get into his room even at this hour. However, since Kathy couldn't get in now, he couldn't leave her there to fend for herself all night, especially when both of them were equally at fault. Kathy's shouts yielded no results. So, she turned back to Jacob and asked, "What now?" She looked very close to tears. The most assertive and confident girl in the class looked helpless at the moment. Jacob was worried too. Not for himself, since he had spent nights outside with Sam quite often, but having Kathy with him added complications to the situation. He had no option other than to give her the only solution he could think of. He said, "If you agree, can we spend the night at the internet cafe?" "Is it safe there?" Kathy hesitated. The environment in the internet cafe wasn't very hospitable, especially for girls. It was more like the boys' space than a professional establishment. Jacob thought about it and suggested, "Or we could stay at the motel down the road." Kathy looked at him, startled. She hesitated again and asked, "Have you stayed there before?" Kathy had always been an introvert who was obsessed with books. This was her first time in a situation like this. She trusted Jacob, but it was still way too out of her comfort zone. "Not really, but I've heard it doesn't cost much, approximately $20 per night. As long as we have our IDs, I think the student cards work too." He wanted Kathy to feel comfortable, but he didn't know how. He didn't want her to think that he was experienced in all of this. "Is that kind of place safe?" Kathy asked the same question after thinking about it for a bit. "Yes, it should be safe." Jacob didn't sound so sure about his answer. All kinds of people stayed in such cheap motels, and he had heard of incidents that had happened there. At first, he was thinking about finding a place for Kathy and going back to his dorm, but he couldn't leave her alone in a shady place like that. I can stay with you if you're worried." Jacob coughed twice, pretentiously, and asked awkwardly, "That's not appropriate." She hesitated for a bit before rejecting it. Since none of his ideas seemed to work out, Jacob suggested, "Or we can call your roommates and ask them to knock on the supervisor's door so that she can open the gate for you." "I didn't bring my cell phone. That is the problem," Kathy said, helplessly. She came out just for the guest lecturers, so she didn't bother to bring her cell phone. Who would have known that this could happen? I don't have their numbers, and neither would Sam and the guys, said Jacob. He and his roommates mostly kept to themselves, and every one of them had a tough luck with girls on campus. There are still a couple of hours left before dawn, and we need to find somewhere to stay. Kathy gave up after knocking on the window of the administrative office for a while. Fortunately, Jacob was here with her, so she wasn't too desperate. Jacob suddenly thought of something and said, We can go to the 24-hour karaoke place and spend the night there. A room from midnight to 6 a.m. will only cost $15. Yes, that's good. Kathy finally agreed to his suggestion. That was a place she had been to before. It was mostly open all night for everyone, but they had good security, so getting a private room there could work out for them. It was cold at night, and they couldn't get into the dorms. After the decision was made, Jacob took her to the place on her bike. He thought about the suggestions he had just mentioned to her while biking, and realized that the one he looked forward to was spending the night at a motel room with her. Damn it! What is wrong with me? Why would I think that? Jacob kicked himself for having that thought. On the other hand, Kathy, who was sitting behind him, didn't think that much. She was only touched by Jacob's good intention in keeping her company so late at night. She knew that the guys usually returned to their dorms late, and the supervisor there was used to them coming back after closing time. Therefore, she was sure that Jacob could still go back to his dorm if he wanted to. It is all my fault. If I hadn't gotten too lost in our conversation and didn't forget about the time, Jacob could still go back to his dorm instead of wandering around with me so late at night. Kathy criticized herself in the back seat as she bit her lip. They went to the karaoke place, which was located on the second floor of a famous barbecue restaurant. They asked for a small room for a few hours. Seeing only the two of them there at midnight, the waiter who led them to the room kept staring at them with a suspicious look. Once they entered the room, he told them bluntly, The room's only meant for singing, not anything else. Anything else? What else? Kathy suddenly understood the implied meaning as soon as she asked, and blushed hard. I mean, the waiter added after seeing her blush, you can sing here, but you cannot sleep. We know students like you. Oh, I see, Kathy murmured. Her blush became more apparent when she noticed Jacob looking at her. She hurried into the room and sat down in a corner. The waiter explained a few more things to Jacob, turned on the equipment, and left the room. Kathy sat awkwardly on the couch as she looked around the room, still blushing. Don't worry, they have strict rules here. Jacob randomly grabbed a microphone and put it beside him. I came here with Sam and the guys before, but guys like us are at the internet cafe a lot more than here. I know. I came with some of the girls before as well. At least it is safer than both the internet cafe and the motel. Kathy nodded. Jacob knew that Kathy was tired as he noticed the redness in her eyes. He said, You can go to sleep, Kathy. I'll stay up in case the waiter comes back. Kathy was touched by everything he was doing for her. How can I let you... But Jacob interrupted her in between. It's okay. I always stay up late, and I'm used to it. He waved off her concern. Then, in an attempt to lighten the mood, he added, Don't worry, I will guard you with my life. Kathy smiled at his effort and bit her lip in contemplation. She wanted to say something, but didn't know where to start. Jacob took off his jacket and put it over her shoulders. You might feel a bit chilly after you fall asleep. Anyway, get some sleep. I'll listen to some music and sing a few songs. It will keep me awake. He stood up and clicked on some popular songs. Then he sat back down beside Kathy. Jacob is such a good person, Kathy sighed as she looked at him with her eyes semi-closed, lying on the couch. As soon as she closed her eyes, all the worry and fatigue of the day caught up with her, and she sighed in relief. Jacob picked up the microphone as he listened to the familiar music. He turned on the voiceover and randomly hummed along. He made sure to keep the volume low so he wouldn't disturb Kathy. Kathy smiled as she secretly looked at him through her squinted eyes while pretending to be asleep.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.